Greetings, everyone. Tell you, back on here again to point out that file date. I mean, if we're all going to have to commingle with the legal system, shall we do it in honor or shall we do it in disgrace? Shall we live in perpetual dishonor? Is it not relevant to look at a birth certificate and clearly see that the legal name was not created the day we were born? And I just did a live on Facebook about the fact that the commingling of our date of birth with a legal name, and legal is the undoing of God's law. So you have this godless act going on down at the local hospitals in your community, forcing moms and dads under the threat of kidnapping to give over information that is then forwarded into this Luciferian satanic system to create a burden on them from cradle to grave. Not that there isn't a burden created for not complying with this Luciferian satanic system that is responsible for the undoing of God's law, which really is the do no harm. That's really God's law, do no harm. And here we have the millions and millions of statutes, codes, policies. Hey, pandemic, let's make a mandate. Now they want to inject you. I don't know how long this YouTube channel is gonna last. I've only had 3 previous YouTube channels burnt, and really it was all about pointing out the 2030 agenda of the birth registration of everyone in the world, the commingling of the man, woman, sons, and daughters with the legal system, with the legal name. And if legal is the undoing of God's law, what does that say for all of the folks that say they serve the truth as they live the lie? And as they encourage, if not only encourage, but support the violent taking it by force, the violent that perpetuates the coercion and duress to force folks to be a part of this legal system, this undoing of God's law. I would say that what I'm experiencing right now, after they basically, in my humble opinion, murdered my soulmate with graphene oxide. I don't think it was cancer at all, but I'm not going to elaborate on that. But now I'm having to take care of our son and daughter. And the very medical field that is responsible for stealing private information and here comes the disturbance. The very medical field is responsible for stealing private information and handing it over to vital statistics to create a legal name. Also, and what I'm experiencing now, is a demand for a driver's license or state ID, or they will not treat the little ones for medical. Now, there's no law requiring a state ID or a driver's license, but here you have the medical field involving themselves in demanding a driver's license, a state ID. And it doesn't matter if it's the passport, it doesn't matter if it's a driver's license, it's a state ID, if it's your fishing license, your gun permit. They're all legal names commingling your date of birth. That is commingling the flesh and blood with the legal name, with the fiction, with the straw man, with the organization name. Slice it and dice it however you'd like to. It is what it is. And for us to just stand around or even to try to work out our own personal escape, well, if one's a slave, we're all slaves. And I think if that was never played out more abundantly than the mask-wearing moron pandemic, the shutting down of everything. And I'm sorry, I don't care what status you corrected or how many stars you had on your passport or what it was that you felt you had accomplished. Everything shut down was everything shut down. None of the gurus can answer this question. I don't care how many trusts you created. None of this matters when they can just shut everything down. They can end your careers, end your businesses. They can just end everything. How is it they're able to do all this? They can declare you to be an enemy, a U.S. citizen to be an enemy. And then, of course, what do they want? At the medical, are you a U.S. citizen? They actually ask this question. What is your political status? Are you a U.S. citizen? It's beyond absurd. It's so deranged. And the level of derangement at this point, if that's even a word, and everybody just wants to act like this file date's some complicated deal. It's the simplest separation of that fiction ever to come forward in my journey. And I show people what it did, what happens when you correct it with the credit repositories that's tied to the Social Security number. They don't have a way to report a debt against you. And what is you? You as a debtor of the United States. Go look at bankruptcy. You, in their language, will now be the debtor. Whenever we say you, we're saying the debtor. The system is so broken, but it was meant to be broken. It was meant to place us under the law merchant, under the scheme of secure transactions. The Social Security Administration demanding a state ID, or they won't talk to you. So if there's no law requiring a driver's license or a state ID, but you can't go in and talk to Social Security because they aren't going to talk to you or acknowledge anything about anything without you producing something where you're commingling your birth with a legal name. This is how important this is to them. And it scares the bejesus out of them. It truly does. Because this is where the lie and the truth clash. This is where the truth just slaughters the lie. You got Brian with Here's the Deal. There's no file date on my brand new Indiana birth certificate. Well, that should really scare you there, Brian. It really should scare you that there's no file date on there. And it's just like it's a man, I think, that is suing California for the file date because they no longer provide it. And I can't stress to you enough what the digital age is going to do. This undoing of God's law, and we're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to bring that file date up at the school board, at the county commissions, at the city council, to the governors, to the mayors, to the sheriffs. We're not going to bring this up. We're not going to bring this up as they're caging millions and millions of men, women, our sons and daughters under these legal names that are being commingled with our date of birth. What's your name? What's your date of birth? What's your name? What's your date of birth? What's your name? What's your date of birth? How much more sense can it make, people? And I'm sorry, there's no out with the passport. That's a legal name commingling your date of birth. If it's a legal name, it has its own date of creation. And it has nothing to do with our date of creation or our date of being born. The date of creation would actually be conception, but hey, how are we supposed to nail that one down, right? So y'all can try to run circles around it all you want to. It is what it is. That file date is the death blow to the legal name. An absolute death blow. Because there's one thing that Douglas Joseph Herrick was not incorrect about. Correct it with the credit bureau and watch what happens. I watched $30K in child support revert to exceptional payment history. Now how do they explain ever putting me in jail in a cage for a suspended driver's license over the kidnapping of my son, which my sheriff supposed brother-in-law, Chris Blair, and my own sister, Debbie Bianco Pallmeyer, who, she's having her own problems now with Mr. Control Freak. Because, he just sent his son into an attempted suicide. Yeah, and I'm the crazy one. I'm the crazy one. Vincent Pallmeyer, Deborah Bianco Pallmeyer, Ball, whatever the hell you're calling yourself these days, who stole my $100,000 that was left to me by my dad. By changing the will why he had Alzheimer's. And Billy Woods, the sheriff over here, he's just a part of it. They're all friends. So you're working against all of these people that are all conspiring together to steal, pillage, kill, cage, and do whatever they want to whomever they want. Refusing medical treatment if you can't produce an ID. The lunacy. See, these people in the medical field, they all need to go to Gitmo, in my humble opinion. They all need to go to Gitmo and play on a swing set for the rest of their lives. Because it's completely dumbfounding. But then it makes perfect sense to me, because the Luciferians that are running the medical system all want to see that legal name with your commingling, so they know they can do anything to you that they want. They can kill you over there for $38,000 and put you on a respirator for a little bit extra money during the pandemic. I mean, they were creating pandemic bonds. They're profiting from their pandemic. Doesn't it make sense, people, that everything these people do is to profit off of our misery and our hardship? And they just do not care. They don't care if you live or die. They don't care if your sons and daughters live or die. They really don't care. And I'm not going to say every single one of them, but a good majority of them. And really, the only ones that are left in the medical field now are the ones that would go along with the pandemic. That's a very scary idea. That when I took my daughter for her wellness check, and what are they? What they don't even have a pediatrician. It's just some medical practitioner. There was no pediatrician. There wasn't even a doctor. But who wants to go on a doc tour these days, right? Because you're worth more dead than alive. You remember, you die, they sweep the bonds. And let me add a little more insult to injury. We know the banks don't have any money to lend, right? That our signatures are the accessing of the credit. But could it be that because we're commingling our date of birth with the legal name, that we're taking responsibility as surety and debtor for the loan anyway, even though we're the ones, supposedly, with our signatures, creating and generating the wealth from the Federal Reserve desk? Is this starting to make sense to anyone? That our commingling of our date of birth with that legal name it brings about very bad results, where they will take your home, take your car, take your boat, take your babies, if you're not willing to allow them to push you into a system that commingles your date of birth with their legal name. Even though we can look at pretty much any birth certificate out there, especially a certificate of live birth, and clearly see that, wait a minute, the legal name wasn't created the day I was born. In fact, For me, July 17th, I was allegedly born. But July 27th, with a wedding signature on the certificate of live birth, for a fact, it was filed with the state. That's the registration date. That's the date that the legal name came into effect. Because it's not into effect between July 17th and the 27th. And that's the same thing for all of the people that are taking the moment to pull that birth certificate out and take a look and see, oh, wow, hey, what this crazy guy's talking about is true. The legal name here, yeah, that is a legal name. That is an organization name, as the lawyers call it these days. Was not created the day I was born. What a miracle. You know, you keep pussyfooting around, and you're going to have you another pandemic. You're going to have you another shutdown. Not that they haven't already created an invasion of the country. And from the intel coming out, the Jewish Family Services is getting millions upon millions, if not billions of dollars to give over to their NGOs, buy NGOs, and bingo was his name-o. None of y'all heard me talk about that connection with the NGOs and the fact that we teach our sons and daughters to sing B-I, buy NGOs, bingo was his name-o. It's, you can't make this stuff up. And once you start seeing the connection, and now we got Jewish Family Services, whoever they are, filtering all the money to these NGOs, they're Catholic, that are bringing all of the new inhabitants into North America and giving them wealth beyond what they give the American people. I mean, these are truly, truly issues that are so disturbing. Oh, and free medical. Because they need as many more ignorant people as they can to stuff into this system and create as much chaos, because this is division. Y'all have a great day.